Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Creative Spirit. And this is where we explore the deep inner awakening of creativity within each of us. And we all do that in a really unique way. So this morning, Kristen Hendricks is with me, and she'll be sharing the variety of expressions that she has experienced so far in her life. And it's always lifelong learning with this. And I'd like to just say, hi, Kristen, welcome. And can you tell us a little bit about your journey in creativity?
Hi, good morning, Trudy, and thank you for inviting me to join you. It's always a pleasure. And you and I have talked about creativity in the past, the energy of creativity. And, my journey with it, I think you and I do a lot of soul work together. So
Mm-hmm.
the foundation of everything I do is really my journey and my wisdom and my experience of being able to kind of, go within and connect with that inner guidance. And having done that and doing more and more of it, especially in recent years, has really allowed me to link um, that true creativity spirit from that heart guidance, if that makes sense.
Yes, and it feels like you're saying that it's been a kind of a lifelong journey so far. So when do you, or do you have a memory of the first time you became aware that there was some kind of expansive internal sensation when you got really immersed in a creative effort?
No, I to go back over my life journey, that would take me, I think, a little bit of reflection. I feel that probably like most people, when we think of creativity in our society, we tend to kind of box it in to the creative arts. Like I can paint, I can sculpt, I can sing, those artful expressions. And what I've learned is that creativity pops up in all different realms because your intuition and your creativity are closely linked together. And I heard someone say recently, maybe in this past year, that how they're so closely linked, but both are useless if you're not using them. And I think people have so much more creativity within themselves than they're even aware of because we've kind of narrowed it into a pocket of, certain ideals. But you can be
Yeah.
creative in the way you solve a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You can be creative in the, way that you approach a situation or that you engage with someone, or maybe it's even I'm going to drive a different way to work today, so it's all these things. But, for myself, what I've really been more immersed in, like over the past, few years, is something that I enjoy doing and where I enjoy being creative is in the kitchen and,
Oh.
and with foods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to waste food. So I'm always looking at, what I have, how I can utilize it, how I can be creative, to put, something together so that everything, is used and used well. And then, it's led me in some different directions, in the kitchen as well.
You
Um,
know, something that you said uh, was an aha for me for a minute, because I think of all the people that I have come in contact with throughout my life, and there have been a few, and you get into a conversation and you talk about what you like to do, talk about what your work is, and we have everything, like you said, in a box. It's all compartmentalized. This is my work, this is my family, this, and it just goes on, and we have all these segments of life. And so many people have said to me, and I'm just not creative. I don't paint. I'm not a musician. I can't sing. And so I'm really glad you brought that out, because creativity is being.
it's our expression, and it's kind of a can't think of the word, but kind of like a growth or an output of that inner space. It's
Yes.
expressing it outward, and it can show up in so many different ways. You know, for example, anyone who knows me, and I know you know me well, like I said earlier, my greatest foundation, my greatest joy in life is understanding the soul, making that connection with my own soul, and then living that from the inside out, and following that inner guidance. But it shows up, like I said, in so many different ways. And what I'm finding is, because in that realm of my work, I go by the soul awakener. But what I'm finding, well, what has been so beautiful is, the universe is showing me, my own higher self is showing me, I am always the soul awakener, no matter how I'm showing up in the world.
And always being creative. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So with, um, some of the things that I think we're going to talk about here in a minute, like with what I've been doing in the kitchen, I
Yes.
can do that and still I'm still showing up as a soul awakener, because honestly, we're all the soul awakener when we show up in the world expressing our truth. And that's the greatest way that we can inspire others, is just by living our truth. So when we funnel our own spiritual creativity, our own truth of our heart guidance, that's just showing up in all ways. I recently heard someone's creativity, I think too, which is probably why you're doing this series, has been kind of a forefront energy the past year or so. People coming more and more into, like you said, that expansive kind of creativity. And, I just heard, someone mention that slowing down allows for that creative surge. It's like creativity is almost like a meditative practice. It gets us into kind of a different part of our brain. But for people who you may say, like, I'm not creative, I don't have any, creativity, sometimes I wonder if people, we really need to slow down and find that space and kind of let that come forward.
And they don't recognize it. Someone might stand right in front of me and say, I'm not very creative. I'm not a musician. I don't paint. I don't write. And I look at how they're dressed, and it's unique. It's a true expression of who they are. And I'm thinking to myself, or you go visit them in their home, and they have all these wonderful, unique, special things that they have around them that express exactly, and you can walk in and say, I really know you now. I know you much better.
I thought of those same exact examples as we were talking this morning. The way you dress, the way you decorate your home, or set up your home, and
Yeah. So tell me about the kitchen. You mentioned it twice. Let's hear a little more about that.
So a couple of years ago, and again, it was kind of asking those questions of the universe or of myself. What's next for me? What is something I can do in this space of time, that I have? And I, kind of got this idea of selling sweetbreads, or quick breads at our, local farmers market. And I started doing that, and it really grew and developed over the last couple of years. I enjoy that. I enjoy being creative, in the kitchen. Even just like choosing the ingredients, that you make, and, how you're going to make them, and, playing with the different recipes, and the seasonal, like strawberries in early summer, and zucchinis in middle summer, and pumpkin, in the fall, and cranberry orange towards the holidays, and, there's so much of it that has been creative for me.
You know what else I've noticed about your breads, especially? I mean, they're beautiful. They're colorful. They have unique qualities. But I think you're also blending some things that you mentioned, the traditional flavors that are seasonal, but you've made some things with lavender and some other things. Tell me about those.
Yeah, and some of it's like you maybe have an idea and then like looking for a recipe that pulls it all together. But I've made lemon lavender bread and muffins and using, the fresh lavender out of my garden. I've even taken the herbs out of my garden and tied those together and have sold those at the farmers market. So again, like all these things that are kind of around food and in the kitchen and even the presentation of it. So for example, this is the loaf of banana chocolate chip bread. So when I take it to the market, I put like a fun little ribbon on it and a little label. And that's being creative too, like how you present something. The
It's your
art.
unique brand. It looks like you, and they all look like that. They know they come from you.
Exactly. And here's a little muffin. This is blueberry dream, in a paper, muffin cup.
Mm-hmm.
So even just that part of it is also creative, not just making the product, but then displaying the product or presenting the product. I just recently took a new part-time job. And two things, that you said. You started off saying something about kind of a lifelong process or a lifelong journey. And I saw a post with a bakery that I follow just last week. And it's a very casual post and very non-threatening. And this woman who owns the shop said that she was hiring for a part-time pie baker and not to worry about it, that she would teach you. And just to email her and tell her a little bit about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, following that kind of inner guidance, I was sitting there thinking, I think I'm supposed to respond to this. And I've been thinking about how I do a lot in the kitchen and I do a lot of baking. And I've made some pies, but, kind of sadly, I think like my mother's generation was the first generation of kind of convenient foods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was always using like the refrigerated pie crust.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been using the refrigerated pie crust. I have pie crust recipes, but I've just never messed with it,
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking, there's so many things about baking pies that I really don't know. And of course, my grandmothers are gone, and now my mother's gone, and I have found myself in these energies of who's going to teach me how to make pies. And I saw this post and just all of it. I thought, I've got someone who can teach me how to make pies. I can step out again into the world, expressing myself, doing something that I enjoy doing, being in the kitchen and expanding that, knowledge, into pies, make a little money, right, while I'm at it. So I thought, oh gosh, like, at my age, like, tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm like, I have done so many different things throughout my life. I've been in restaurant management. I've owned my own business in holistic health, and I've worked in finance and all these different like pieces of me. And that's, I think too, to let people know that creative energy is kind of a process, and you might allow you to explore a lot of different aspects of yourself. I mean, being good with numbers. I'm really good with numbers. To me, that's part of that creative, energy.
Mm-hmm.
But with these pies, I kind of emailed her and just sort of listed a few things that I had done and about the breads that and muffins that I've been offering at my local farmers market. But when she responded to me, what she said was, "Oh, you sound like a lifelong learner like me." So when you said that earlier, that that is really that creative energy too. And, again, tied closely to kind of your intuition and your inner guidance and just allowing your life journey to explore all those different parts of yourself.
And expand, and it expands in so many different directions. And as we're aware of opportunities and we we feel that inner truth, that resonance, like you mentioned when you saw the post about the pies.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, it's a decision here. It's a head-heart decision. Do I go with it or not? And then if you do, and it comes through like it did for you, it just opens a whole nother world. And
And and what I thought, what I thought of too when you were speaking earlier, and I was kind of, thinking about again, like my foundation of who I am, I feel like, I'm here to kind of be the soul awakener, awaken others to their own soul, help them make that again, that connection and live by that space. So you might think, well, how am I going to do that if I'm stuck in a bakery making pies, right? We can have that kind of conflict with ourselves of we have ideals, I think, of how we think that's supposed to look in life.
right, and we talked about that when we first started this dialogue, was that
Right.
we compartmentalized what we think creativity is. Yeah.
Well, what I thought was really sweet yesterday is a dear woman that I know here in town. I consider her a friend, not necessarily like a close friend, but a friend. I saw her early in the week and mentioned, that I was going to be doing these pies. Some of it's a little out of my comfort zone, getting in my car and driving out of town to, go make pie, all of this. But when my first day was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I showed up to my new work. My friend had sent a small bouquet of flowers
Oh,
to the bakery. I'm getting a little emotional. And, she wrote a little something about, I know you're going to do great. I know they're going to love you. And she said, keep spreading your sunshine.
oh,
And I thought,
love that.
and it just, again, just that reminder of, yeah, you can be that light, you can be your truth in all kinds of ways. And right now, I'm being guided to just be that, be who I am, but through this expression of baking pies, for this bakery.
And everybody right now is in, and I'll use the word dire need of nurturing and nourishing. And this is a great way to do it. So now that you've showed us some samples, where can people find these things and enjoy them?
Honestly, the best way, if anyone follows Facebook, is just, I guess to connect with me.
Okay.
Facebook, because for example, like, with my breads, I wanted to still be enjoyable, right?
Right.
So I make them about once a month during what I call kind of like the farmers market season. I'm thinking we kind of have an early spring. I'll probably be starting soon, maybe even next month. But I usually about once a month, I kind of, make a post
Okay.
that this is what I'm making. This is when they'll be available, to either, meet me at the farmers market location here in Gibson City or, for arranged pickup.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of go that way. So, I mean, if anyone ever had like a big special order, sure, I would be happy to. But what I don't want to find myself is like always making these breads, because then I'm going to lose that enjoyment of that and that love for it. And I don't want it to feel like stressful, for me. So I do it about once a month. I would say like spring. This year I expanded all the way like up to Christmas. I had like a Christmas open house in my home and took some special orders, again, kind of cutting that date off,
Right.
like after this date, I'm not making breads for anyone anymore. I'm enjoying myself and my family, and then the pies, I'm going to be baking pies for Lucky Moon Pies down in Mahomet, Illinois.
Nice. Okay. Great.
You
So you can look for those there.
you can look for those things.
Something you said as we begin to wrap up, because we are at that point in our dialogue, You said you don't want to feel the pressure, is what I was getting from you, of producing. So that, and that's a fine line. I think people that express themselves creatively, whatever it is, find that there is a moment where the pressure to produce seems to stifle the creativity. It takes the joy out of it. So it sounds like you've gotten a pretty good schedule in your life to be able to balance the joy of creating and at the same time, allowing people to have the opportunity to receive,
Yeah.
and also have your time for recharge and a little bit of relaxation. Yeah.
Yeah, all of that for sure. And again, kind of following that inner guidance, I kind of look at the calendar, what's going on in town, what's going on other places, what's going on with me. We have a recycling program in Gibson City, the first and third Saturday. The farmers market is right across the street. So if I can line up with that week, again, it's a smaller community too. And so with my breads, they're kind of a specialty. It's not something that people are going to buy like every week or all the time.
Right.
That's why I think if I can show up like once a month and change the variety of the flavors, that kind of keeps, people kind of coming back. Now, if I was in Urbana and I could show up at the Urbana's farmer market every Saturday in the season, that might be different because that draws in a lot of different people over the weekends. But I want to, again, be in control of my time, my energy, my schedule. I want to show up with them when I'm feeling guided to. And again, I don't want it to become a job or become that pressure. And I think you're right. You lose that love and that creative edge and kind of all of it when you feel like you have to produce.
Yeah. Well, it's been a joy and a pleasure to learn about this today. And you said you are on Facebook, so if anyone wants to connect with you, that's the best way to do it.
That's the best way right now.
Yeah. So thank you so much for visiting, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.